is the Sensitive CEO Show, igniting sensitive entrepreneurs to grow your heart-centered business. I'm your host, Rose Cox, and this podcast shares with you inspiring and thought-provoking conversations for sensitive entrepreneurs wanting to grow a sustainable online business in a way that feels exciting and aligned with your soul. Along with my carefully curated expert guests, we share science-backed advice, proven strategies, and the systems we use to succeed in our businesses and our lives as highly sensitives, introverts, and empaths. And by the way, if you would like to be updated on when each episode is released, feel free to subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll also get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. To subscribe, pop on over to the website sensitiveceo.show or rosecox.com/pod. Now on to today's show. Hey, it's Rose and welcome to another episode on the Sensitive CEO Show. And in this week's episode, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Christina Frei. Christina is a marketing consultant and author who helps solo business owners find their voice, market to their strengths, and get the right clients consistently. So welcome, Christina. It's wonderful to talk with you today.
Yeah, thank you, Rose. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. And I did a very short intro, but I would love for you to introduce yourself more in depth and let everyone who's listening today to learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, and as a marketer, this is the perennial marketing challenge, how to introduce oneself. Okay, here we go. So what I focus on is there's this innate quality in every business owner where they come alive in service to other humans. So like it's your lane of joyful contribution, call it that. I also call it your marketing archetype. So my marketing starts with that. And what that does is it becomes this beautiful engine of, wow, I just can't wait to get out there and make a difference in people's lives and, help them make good decisions. And hopefully that includes working with me. So it starts with that beautiful lane of service, which then translates to a great brand story. Like, how do you differ from others? And then that also helps with choosing a strategy of the 10,000 ways to get out there. So it's all about start with your heart of service. It will make things so much more streamlined and simple. And there will be a momentum there, which everybody could use these days.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you talk about marketing archetypes. Can you share how you discovered the marketing archetypes, Christina?
I was doing a field study. I've done a few of these in my career, and I was working with 40 different business owners to create their marketing plan. And I was trying something different. I wanted to use sort of a spiritual practice that I've been using forever. We might talk about it later. But anyway, I call it the generosity practice, and it was a really deep version of it. This is where I go into lingo and totally confuse people, but let me just keep it really short and sweet by saying it reveals just the most incredible way that you, again, come alive in service to others. Like I would just take people on a guided journey for them to discover that in themselves. And I have this really sneaky, beautiful way of helping people get there. But what happened was with every business owner, they all had this archetype. Like I would take them on a journey and they would learn all the stuff about their messaging. But I also identified, hey, you seem like a natural, what I would call an adventure guide, right? Someone who just sees what's possible for people way before they do. And you're so bold in your own life that you inspire us all to go for it. Like, who are you? This is awesome. We need to put that in your messaging. And I kept going with that. And I realized there are 5 really strong categories. I can get more detail, but you could be a nurturer. And I said adventure guide, door opener, steady presence, or celebrator. And each one of these has their own magic voodoo sauce of really being compelling and making a difference in other people's lives. So I could geek out about that. But it just started with a field study, like looking at 40 people's ways of getting out there and really loving to help others, translating that into messaging, and then realizing, hey, there's some archetypes here, people. Let's do something with this.
No, it sounds amazing. And that's a really good way to find out, is to do the field study, obviously, and really dive into that. But I would love to dive into each of the archetypes if you're willing to share what the qualities and everything of each one are, please.
Yes, all day long. I swear, there are certain things that are just never boring, no matter how much you talk about them. This is definitely one of them. And maybe you will agree once you hear what they are. So if you're a nurturer, here's a dead giveaway. You are the one who just easily makes it warm and fuzzy. Like, you just love to make it safe with the purpose of other people thriving out of that sanctuary and safety. That just brings you to life. A lot of people are exhausted by that, but you're not. You are enlivened by that as a nurturer. So that's the giveaway there. Okay, if you're an adventure guide, the dead giveaway is you tend to be a little impatient that other people just go for it. Like, that's a little bit of the edge of an adventure guide, because you, and I said this before, but I'll say it again, you see what's possible. You see these bold goals on the horizon for people that they haven't even considered. And since you tend to go for big things yourself, you then inspire people to go big or go home. Then the third category is a door opener. And that is not about networking. It's more about seeing things from many different perspectives, being a natural educator. And the challenge for a door opener is that you have so many ideas and ways to solve problems and just different ways of looking at things, that you're the one who really needs to go take a yoga class to just like focus and embody and land on one idea at a time that you would like to present to the world. Okay. And then the fourth category is steady presence. And that's, I would say, out of all the categories, the one that most resists marketing, because if you're a steady presence, you love to be the calm in the storm for the people you serve. You tend to be this deep treasure trove of course, expertise, but also resources and network. You know so many people, but you lean back. You let people come to you. You don't want to go out there chasing. I have a lot of clients that are steady presences because there's a very particular way to get out there. You don't have to chase people, I promise. So, and then if you're a celebrator, this is like diametrically opposed to a steady presence, where you want to bring the good life to people and you do it with your own flair. So you could be like the life of the party, the funniest person around. You could be the one that has all the like, oh, you should do that color and that color, like this sort of design sense or artistic sense. There's just a unique flair that you bring to the table a lot of times without even realizing it. So that is what drives you. You love bringing the good life. And I tell you, during the last 2.5, bonkers years, celebrator energy is what I noticed was most missing in our lives. So I'm so glad that things are starting to open up, or are opened up in a big way, because that I've missed that energy. Like, come on, let's just like raise the roof and have a good time again.
Absolutely. And I would love for you to share which archetype you are, Christina.
Oh, yeah. Let's get a little personal. So nurturer is my prominent. And then I have a secondary, which is door opener. So if you go real deep, my very specific archetype is I'm a nurturer of great ideas in other people. Like if I'm doing that for anyone, I'm totally on mission. Like that just makes me so fulfilled.
So you kind of answered another of my questions. I was going to ask if you can be more than one.
Yes. Yes, you can. Although I've given probably 200 talks on this topic, and every single time people ask me that question. So I will say with a lot of forethought, some people are very tempted to be all 5. And let me just say, I completely understand that. They're all awesome. They're all wonderful. And frankly, we all have every single facet of this in us. Where I'm humbly offering this model is for when you feel like I am doing all the things and I feel completely scattered and so pressured to do every single thing to get my name out there. How can I focus? And I say, you can focus by finding your most deep why. What's your deepest why when you get out there and help people? That's all I'm trying to do here, people. It's just help with that. You have every one of those categories in you. I am not going to argue that for sure.
So finding your marketing archetype helps you to find your why?
Yeah, I would even say, I mean, I could just go all through the 5 and just tell you, like, the deepest why in a nurture is they want to make it safe for others to thrive. The deepest why in an adventure guide is that everyone is reaching for their biggest goals. The door opener is that people see all kinds of possibilities in how you perceive things. For a steady presence is you've got what you need to get from here to there. Like, I've got your back. And then celebrators is that you live the good life. Those are the whys that drive it. Sorry if I wasn't clear about that before.
No, that's fine. It's just, I just love this whole framework. And I think it's such a nice, succinct way to really understand oneself and to understand your clients as well.
Yes, we could talk about that all day long. Absolutely.
So how do people find out their own archetype, their main one?
Yeah. So I spent a good year with a wonderful market researcher and I cooked up an assessment. So there's a 35 question assessment. Yeah. Get out a cup of tea because it's going to take a little while, like maybe 7 minutes of your life. And it's at innatemarketinggenius.com/assessment. I'll just say that again. Innate, like INN, innatemarketinggenius.com/assessment. It's a free assessment. And after you take it, you'll find out which one or ones that you are. And then you'll get a bunch of love letters from me telling you things like, if you were a sock, like if you're a celebrator, this is what you would look like if you were a sock. And it has this like rainbow sock. Like, I had a lot of fun with those emails because I want people to be completely over the moon with being whatever they are. Yeah.
Wonderful. I will pop that link to your assessment in the show notes because I'm sure that's something, 7 minutes isn't very long, and I'm sure that's something many people would love to do. So awesome. Now, I have to ask, the steady presence one, you said that there are ways to market that. I can't remember your actual word, but I made a note to ask you. So what are some wonderful ways to market for a steady presence archetype?
So I always start with the right questions to ask and how to tell your story. So I'll start with how to tell your story. So when you get out there and talk about what you do, what is really key is giving yourself a big old permission slip to geek out in public. So what I'm asking you to do is consider, okay, let's say you're an attorney or a coach of any variety, and there's a conference coming up where you're going to learn something and deep dive into your profession. And you say to yourself, well, I'm going to go learn all that stuff, but it is way over everyone's head. I'm not going to share that with my community when I come back. And I say, hey, wait a second, please go and geek out about that, even if you confuse us a little bit by going over our heads with the depth of your knowledge, because what's compelling about your story is not that we get it, it's that you get it and we need you. You're just showing this deep passion of what you do. And your job is not necessarily to educate us like a door opener would. It's more to intrigue us and like, ooh, this person knows so much that I didn't even know to even ask that question. And that's what gets them to reach out to you, right? So that's one thing. And that can be with a conference you go to, a book that you read, a course that you take. I don't care what it is. Just deep dive on something and then go ahead and share it however you see fit. Also, as a steady presence, you are a pillar. I'm just going to call you a pillar because that's what we want for you is steadiness. And one way to act that way is to be a leader in your community for the greater good. So you could be involved in something like a nonprofit or, something in the town that you live in, and you're just helping out outside of your profession. So if you talk about that, that is also going to have us sit up and listen and support you and just see you as, wow, this person's not going anywhere. We can rely on them. We want to do business with them. That is obviously compelling for all the types, but there is something really incredible about a steady presence leaning in with that in their marketing. I don't always recommend that to everybody, but I do with steady presences. I see it all the time. It's like, when I first started doing this, I couldn't even put into words why it was compelling. I was just always like this radar, like Boop, boop, boop. Like, why is it I find that person fascinating? That's what I was studying all the time. And so I would sit there watching like someone talk about auto insurance, and I was riveted. And I'm like, I don't care anything. Like, I just don't care about auto insurance. Why am I so intrigued by this man? And it turns out he was a steady presence. And we had a good laugh about that. That's happened many times.
Wow, that's so powerful. I love that each one has their own story. So now that you've shared that one, I would love for you to share the other 4 if you're up for it.
Oh yeah, we're going deep. Okay, you're getting my full course here. So if you're willing to listen, listener, here we go. All right. And actually, one fun thing to do that I encourage people to do when I give talks is, take a wild guess. Like, which one do you lean into the most? And when I share with you how to tell your story as this type, that's a really good time to really feel that out. Like, okay, so if you're a nurturer, for example, one of the things that nurturers worry about is freaking everyone out. And I'm here to tell you that as a card-carrying nurturer, people actually trust us so much that you can actually be really real about the suffering people are in, because they want to be seen by you. They want to be acknowledged by you. They feel safe enough to get honest about the pain points. So you don't need to swoop in with the good news and solutions right out of the gate. We actually want you to just pause and slow down and really like honor people's path and where they are. Nurturers are really good at that. And then you just tell stories about getting from that tough place to, through and to the other side, wherever that is. And then what you do is offer relief at the end. And that can come in many forms. Often it's just meeting with you or talking with you, or something that you're offering is as the clear relief. So that's a nurturer. An adventure guide is very different. Adventure guide is all about like, well, okay, how's my life going to change if I work with you? And what's interesting about sharing that vision, because that's what I ask adventure guides to do, is just simply share the vision of what's possible if we work with you. We don't need to hear how we get there. No one cares. It's like the opposite of the steady presence. We don't need to hear any of the geeky details, even though we know you know them. We just need to see, okay, if you're again, since we're in coachy territory, I'm kind of a coach, you're a coach. Like if I'm going to coach with you, Rose, I want you to tell me, like, paint the picture of what my life is going to look like if I were to coach with you. And it can be general. It doesn't have to be totally, a specific moment, because I know everyone's lives are different, or like a financial advisor, what could open up if I got things together by working with you? And I don't need to hear about 401ks. Or I guess you guys don't have this, but we don't need to hear about retirement plan opportunities. We just don't care from an adventure guide. Mm-hmm. So, and also talk about what you're up to. What are you reaching for that's really bold and adventurous and a big life thing? Because when we see you do it, we want to do it too.
So it's kind of inspiring, a way of inspiring others and
modeling the behavior.
Yeah.
And then door openers are, again, the sort of natural educators. I call door openers like a diamond mind, right? With many, many facets. So the way to tell your story is just look around with the people that you're working with and determine what are one of the biggest challenges that is common. Like, what's a common challenge that people wrestle with that why when they come to you to work with you? And then ask yourself, okay, full door opener mode. What are the 50 ways you could help them with that challenge? And like, go for it. Just like put all that spaghetti at the wall, but then go take a walk with your dog or take a breath and figure out a way to just land on the one thing that you're going to focus on and help with them. And then when you offer that, make sure you have a low risk way to try it out. Like if you were a software company, it'd be a 14-day trial. Like everyone has their own version of just like dipping their toe in the water. Door openers are asking people to innovate. So it's really important for them to just make it a little easier to do that because it's confronting. I've already talked about steady presence, so I will skip over to a celebrator. Celebrators, I think, are the ones that believe me the least when I say this to them. So celebrators have a much easier time having enjoyment and liveliness in their life and then in their work. And everyone else can't get enough of that. And so all we need you to do is look around your work and your clients and whoever, like and share that stuff as much as humanly possible. You don't have to work too hard. That's number one. Number two is, who are the people around you that are acting like incredible leaders? Your job as a celebrator is to appreciate that openly. And one tried and true example I love is I'll just use an American example for a second, but the NASA space program was a huge darn deal back in the day. And it was likely they were not going to get the billions of dollars. That's just a huge effort. But because President Kennedy and a lot of science fiction writers at the time recognized, oh my gosh, this is the best. Like, they were appreciating the leadership of this organization, that I will go on record saying that's a huge reason why the American public got behind it. And then the money went that way. So that's the power of a celebrator appreciating leadership. It can move mountains. So 2 things for celebrators: enjoy the heck out of your work and share it. And like, bring your party to the masses, people. I don't care how you do it. And then appreciate leadership.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for diving into all of that. That's amazing. I love all of that. I'm going to have to re-listen to this myself. How can all of this information help a sensitive person to really get their story out there and to help them to get more clients?
Well, I am a sensitive myself. And here is what I want to point out: one thing that I think might be a helpful distinction. So a lot of times, like, I actually have training at the Berkeley Psychic Institute in Berkeley, California, like the last place I ever thought I would end up in. But what I learned when I was there was how to really look at energy, just look at energy instead of being at the effect of it. It was like a game changer for me, because I was always just walking around with blobs of emotions that I was like, why am I even feeling all this stuff? It was so confusing. And it was the first time that I finally found language and tools and perspective and wonderful communication. And one thing that I came to, I'm going deep here, but bear with me, is that, a lot of times when we're sensitive, we think we need to be protected. And on some level, that is true. There is something to be said about honoring the fact that we are sensitive. Like, yes, 100%. However, I think it's really easy to step into a place of defense if we constantly focus on, well, I need to be protected. I've been exploring as a sensitive my relationship with feeling safe, and to do that without shutting down to the world. That is like a journey of a lifetime right there. Like, how the heck do you feel grounded and stable and safe, but also open and ready to, right? Like, interact with, I can go sit in a room, like frankly, in a closet with a dog for the next 10 years and be perfectly fine. But like, I got a business to run. So one of the things that I'm very aware of is, like, I used to do a ton of meditation. I still do, but it was very much focused on like my space. Like, what do I need? And then I would go out into my daily life and feel like someone punched me in the face energetically. And I would always want to just go back to either taking a yoga class or doing a meditation and just feeling safe again. And when I started doing what I'm going to describe to you right now as the generosity practice, it was the first time that I finally stopped needing that protection. And here's what it basically entailed. And by the way, I talk about this in my TEDx talk, so stay tuned. But anyway, it's basically for me, it's like you close your eyes and you contemplate that you have access to all the riches of whatever abundance means to you, and that you get to decide what is the gift, like the gift in this hot minute that would totally bring you to life to offer to somebody else and be really fulfilling and benefit them. And like, basically the question of the practice is, what feels good to offer to life today? That's like the foundation of the whole thing. And I'm just basically condensing, weeks of studying this practice into like a 2-minute description about what this is. But basically, like, what I found is, when you focus in that way and it gets creative and it's like, oh, I'd like to give puppies. I'd like to give world peace. Right? Like, this is a fun contemplation, but also if you let yourself really sink into the possibility of that, what I find, and I've studied this also in some field studies with people in 5 different countries, where people like also in Australia, someone was in Perth at the time. But anyway, one of the pieces of feedback that I got was that while they felt really expansive and open doing the practice, they also felt incredibly grounded. And when I heard that feedback, I just cried, and I should have just dropped to my knees in thankfulness, because that's what I'd been looking for forever. Like how to be stable and steady and also loving and open, so that I felt safe offering whatever it was I was going to offer. And then I could be much more generous, which is why I call it the generosity practice. I mean, that's just a name I gave. I don't care what it's called. But yeah, I've just been watching that too. I've studied the archetypes, but I've also studied the impact of this way of being. It utterly fascinates me for obvious reasons. So I just want to speak to that as a sensitive, because I do think we can get easily preoccupied with protection. This has been one of the most powerful ways to move through that.
Wow. That's just amazing. It's like music to my ears. You sharing that. It just feels so, I guess, not welcoming. I can't think of the word, but just permission giving, maybe, that, we are sensitive. A lot of us are empathic as well, which I know you are. But being able to actually share that as well. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm excited to watch your TED Talk. I will pop the link to that in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
And also, I know you've written a book, Christina. I'll be popping that in. Is that around the generosity practice or around the marketing archetypes?
It is. For a few years, a few people had been saying, you've been teaching this thing for like 7 years, 8 years by now. It's time to put it in writing. And I didn't think I could do it, but I worked with a great team, and it's now, I call it a beautiful workbook, because it's a 40-day program in a book. And I wanted to put as much life and beauty into that book. And I think I pretty much nailed it, if I do say so myself, with a lot of help from great designers.
Wonderful. I look forward to checking that out as well. Well, thank you so much for everything you've shared today. Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you one question that I ask all of my guests. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do?
I love this question. I was thinking about this today in the car. With all the spiritual tools that I have, if I'm really overwhelmed, journaling. That's it. What I love about sitting down with a journal is it lets my brain breathe. It lets my body slow down. Like everything just gently slows down. It's like, for me, that's what I need. It's really hard for me to gear shift out of go, 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 even though it's incredibly important for me to do so. So yeah, journaling. I could talk your ear off about it, but I'll just leave it at that.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you again for everything that you've shared today. And I really encourage listeners to go and check out all the links in the show notes.
Thanks so much, Rose. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Sensitive CEO Show. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you think it would be useful to someone else, please leave me a review on sensitiveceo.show. Just follow the prompt in the menu. Each month, I'm offering one lucky reviewer a chance to win a 1-hour business and mindset audit with me. This in-depth audit covers the 5 pillars of your online business, and you'll walk away with super clear action steps specifically for you and your business. You'll be re-energized and motivated to step into your greatness. You'll also find all of the show notes for each episode on the website sensitiveceo.show. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. And as the name implies, the email is short and sweet. The Sensitive CEO Show, igniting your sensitive superpowers.